This is Scale Her Up, the podcast for female-led businesses ready to grow to seven figures and beyond. I'm Dr. Brenda Hector, business coach and champion for women in business, on a mission to change the stats and help more women scale successfully. Each week we share real stories, tools and tactics to help you build a business that supports the life you want. Follow the show and come and join our Scale Her Up Facebook community. You don't have to do this on your own. I'm never alone. I've always got a guest on the show, and today's guest, I'm really pleased to have Susan Cresswell, who's the founder of Whitewall Marketing Limited. Susan, thank you very much for joining me.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. And you can call me Susie. Susan's kind of my Sunday name, so call me
Oh,
Susie.
okay. Susie Cresswell. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that kind of fits with the vibe of the show. It's just us having a blather. So yeah, you could call me Bren if you like as well.
Good.
Whitewall Marketing. What is it that you do at Whitewall Marketing?
So we're a marketing comms agency, very digitally focused now, but still do quite a lot of offline work. And we are in a niche industry, so we work in the built environment. So anything that is built, shopping centres, retail parks, office blocks, high-end resi in London, basically anything that's built retail. And we also do some work in the training sector, and we also are on some council frameworks to provide services for small businesses too.
Fantastic. I've got a couple of questions to ask you out of that already. So you've got a niche there. Did you choose that niche or did it happen or how did...
It's funny because I've tried to, over the years, so Whitewall is 20 years this year. And over the years, we've tried to get away from our niche. And now we're told very much that having a niche is a really positive and a real key thing for the company. So it is a funny one. We got into that niche because my background beforehand was in property. So I worked for two large landlords. I worked for Landsec and Capital and Regional, both FTSE 100 companies. And then I worked for a managing agent. So I flipped from client to firm of surveyors who provided services for shopping centres, retail parks, the same again. And I worked on a consultancy basis from the marketing team. And that's how it was. So it was just because that was my kind of niche, basically.
And because you're doing work in that area, it attracts
It's just we've got amazing client base. We've worked with amazing clients, mainly London based. And it's just the majority of our work has always come through that. And we've been in a very lucky position that we've been in a position where we haven't wanted to try and just grow for growing's sake. We've wanted to grow organically. We want to do a really good job and hopefully get more work from the existing companies. And we've been fairly successful at doing that. So where we then tried to look at going outside the sector, we do get work, as I say, in training and some other small businesses in Scotland, but the majority of our work is built environment.
Yeah. Okay. And the other thing that sprung to mind when you said that you mostly do digital, but some offline marketing as well. So I'm just interested to get your thoughts on if somebody's thinking of starting or looking at scaling their business and going, am I gonna market it? I just like the merits of digital marketing and more traditional marketing and what
I
should
think
somebody be thinking of?
I think the thing is, it's funny because we say more traditional digital's been about for a long time, but we're still separating it out, and it shouldn't really be. It should all be the same thing. And I think any marketing always starts with research, always starts with what is needed. That's a clear understanding. It needs planning. So for us, we look at the research. We spend quite a bit of time making sure that we're planning the right thing and not wasting money. And nowadays, because depending on what it is you're trying to do, but from a media landscape point of view, digital does really give you a really good return. It's also, you can see what the return is, whereas some other medias, you're not able to do that. So it's that whole thing about, we spend a lot of time about talking about marketing, digital, it's all the same thing, but sometimes we have to separate it out.
So it's just getting marketing is getting in front of your prospects. And if they're
Absolutely.
online,
Yeah.
then that's what you'll use. And if,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think nowadays the way that different kind of like age groups are using media is very important. We've got our younger customers, guests doing everything through their phone. They don't really have computers. They're all using TikTok and Instagram as search tools. And older people are using websites and Google still as search. So it's just that it's a layered marketing, but it's just a different layered marketing is really what we say.
I was at a conference last week and one of the speakers was talking about sending handwritten notes, like really old school. She's got 1,500 scribes who are handwriting notes for her customers. Yeah, so
And that I think is brilliant because that standout. Direct mail was a big thing at one point, but what she's trying to do is stand out, and that's what everybody's trying to do is stand out. You'll see what influencers and micro influencers there'll be a tide of turn at some point, and there'll be something else that is the new type of media, and some of the more traditional will may come back. But it's back to who's your audience, what are you trying to achieve, and what is your budget? And budgets are under scrutiny and are being cut a lot. And so there is that word of mouth and there is the kind of PR angle. We're a marketing agency. We spend a lot of time having to explain that we're not a PR agency and we don't do PR. PR is really important in that whole mix. It still has a lot of value. But yes, everybody's got thoughts on what's right and what's wrong. And for us as an agency, what we're trying to do is steer in the right direction based on fact. So science based on fact, that's our role.
so tell me then, Susie, you're the founder of Whitewall Marketing, 20 years. Congratulations, actually, on achieving 20 years. That's amazing. Why did you start? What was the driver to setting up your own business?
Very clear for me. I worked for a managing agent. I worked every hour God sends, and I just thought there was more to life. So I'd worked in a very kind of corporate environment, and I just thought there was more to life than this. And I loved doing what I was doing, which was marketing, but I felt at that stage that I was being, I suppose, wheeled out to be client facing on other areas just because we could hold a conversation and it just wasn't going the way that I wanted. I did feel that it was male dominated as well. And
Okay.
I felt that there was a bit of a ceiling because I was a marketing person in a firm of surveyors. So I understand why there was a bit of a ceiling about where I could go. And I was, and I've always been my ambition has been about doing the best job. It's never been about really getting to the top as such. It's just about doing the best job I could do. And I just felt that I was just burned out. And I remember it was my niece's birthday and not having time to go and buy her a card and put it in the post box. And I just thought, no, this just isn't it. So I decided to set up on my own. And a couple of clients that I worked for, very small clients, they said that one said that they would be happy for me to work with them direct, which was great. So I just thought, you know what, we'll see what happens. I basically just set up to freelance. It wasn't any, at that point, any kind of aspirations of anything else. And I just thought, I'll freelance and worst comes to worst, I'll just go and get a job in a pub at night time and it'll be fine. And I'll get there. And my aspiration was just to earn what I had earned. And at that point, I was associate director, associate partner, because it was partnership that I worked for, but I would never got made, I never made partner. And I had no money in the bank. And I went to my mum and dad, and they lent me £1,000 so I could pay my mortgage the next month. And I just thought, it'll be fine. And it's funny because I'm not really a risk taker as a person, but I'd obviously just thought this was, I just thought, okay, it'll be fine. What's the worst can happen? And I got a bit of work straight away, which meant that I could near enough pay my bills and didn't go out for a year. And I racked up a credit card bill, but worked from house for the first year as well. And then I got a couple of opportunities quite early on. And those opportunities were all based on previous networking that I'd done. And the job that I left, I had the best boss ever who allowed me to flourish and meet people and just allowed me to network. She was absolutely best boss ever. And so I had an opportunity and I got a bit of another bit of work and then I got another bit of work and I then set up a separate company. So I then moved out of working from my house and I rented space in a design agency Then I set up a separate company that was a group of associates. So it was a lot of us that were small companies. We were all working together. So, for example, somebody would come and ask me for a brochure or website. I couldn't actually do the brochure website, but I worked with other agencies, small agencies who could, and I would put a small markup on it. And so we did that for a while. And then I thought, this is weird because I'm not making any money. I'm bringing these introductions and I'm managing all this work, but I'm just not making anything out of it. And again, it wasn't about making huge amounts of money. It was just about getting worth. Started to take on staff, and that we started to grow after a couple of years. And then I got a massive opportunity with a large company who wanted a company to work with them to manage and feed nearly 40 websites. And that was a turning point for moving from a smaller company to a much more kind of like larger company. And it was a bit of a scary ride, but it was brilliant. And that kind of changed our fortunes. And at our height, we were 22 people. So 2017, 18, there was 22. We're now about 10 plus four freelancers. So,
So I'm glad you talked about how you built the team because that was going to be my next
mm,
question actually.
mm,
So that subcontracting out to fellow freelancers, that's a really common model in
yeah.
marketing, isn't it?
It is, and sorry, did you finish? Do you want to finish your question, or do you want me
No,
to?
on you go.
Yeah.
It's about you talking.
So it is, and some people, I think COVID has changed people's perceptions and how we all work together. It worked well for me, but there were certain clients who didn't like it. They felt that I don't know if they felt it wasn't the cost-effective model. I don't know, but there were certain clients who, or certain prospective clients who didn't like it because we were very upfront about the fact that we were a group of associated, very small businesses working together. All the businesses were maybe like 3 or 4 people. There was no large businesses there, but which is why it worked for a while, and then we decided to bring it all under the banners of Whitewall Marketing. Um, and we'd been running under Whitewall Marketing and another company called White Wave Associates, which was the white from the Whitewall and the wave from Wave PR, and that was how that worked. I think the tide had changed very much in COVID because people lost their jobs, people started freelancing, and we now have in our freelance model, we have 3 people, so one freelancer who was a client, 3 freelancers, two or three freelancers who were part of the team and decided that they wanted to pursue freelance route for various reasons, but which kind of suited them from a home life point of view, family, children, specialising in one area. And we also have 3 of our freelancers. We've been working together since day one for 20 years. So they're very much part of our team.
Yeah.
They just get paid in a different way. And 2 of them sit within our team. So they sit in the office as well. And our team wouldn't be the same if they weren't there. So it works, and it's back to that different things for different people work.
And
And our
it's
clients are happy.
interesting then that you've got a mix. You've got employed and freelancers and some are in-house freelancers. That's a relatively new one on
Mhm.
me. Yeah, and so it just depends what works for the individual.
It works, yeah, and that's what we're trying to be from a flexible work point of view. We're trying to make sure that we as a company grow, and the only way grow and sustain, and the only way we're going to do that is if we make sure that there are different ways that people can work with us because it's not the same as it was before. And I say often that wasn't like that in my day. You'll know what it's like when you were in your early 20s and we did this and we never worked, we never had lunch, and we worked every hour God sends, and it's all very different, and it is different, and that's just the way it is. That's life. It moves to a different way as we move through the years. So it works for us. It works for us, and I know it works for a lot of other agencies as well. They work in a similar way that they've got in-house and then they've got freelancers as well. You get the best. Some of the freelancers have quite specialised services that we couldn't take in as an employee because they wouldn't be able to do it all the time and they'd have to do things that they didn't want to. It does work.
Brilliant. Just giving staff flexibility. Yeah, I love it. Tell me, Susie, what have you learned about yourself on your journey
Mm.
as an entrepreneur?
So I've learned to I've learned to be calmer over the years. I wouldn't say I was the calmest person. I've learned to just realize that actually there are other ways to do things. It's not always my way. There are lots of other ways to do things. I've learned that we all suffer from a bit of imposter syndrome. I've learned that actually, you know what? I think I do a good job at what I do. And it's testament to the client base that we've got. We pinch ourselves often about the fact that we're what we call a wee agency run by some lassies in Glasgow, and that we've got some major corporate clients on our books, and we're very proud of that. Yeah, but I've learned to be calmer. That's my big thing, and to just sometimes things don't go your way, and you just have to work through solutions. Basically, there's no point in getting uptight and upset. You've just got to find a solution, and it's not always easy, but if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
I say that a lot. Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
learned that, so I've hopefully get to this, I've just moved to an employee ownership trust.
Okay. Yeah.
So in September, so I can talk about that as we go
Mm.
on, but that's been a really pivotal point for us as a company. To move the company forward, which is why I'm in a founder role now than in managing director, because I've appointed a managing director. And this is all about sustainability of Whitewall and where it goes. But yes, the main things are I've learned that I've also learned what, from a work point of view, what I'm good and bad at. And actually, that's okay. And that's the big thing that I talk to the team as well. You don't need to be good at everything, and it's okay to not be. And also, we're only being successful because we're a team, that it wouldn't have worked with just one person. We need each other because we all bounce off each other. And one thing that, might frustrate us about one of our team members is actually really good and positive for us, because that's why we do good work, because we're all different. So yeah, we're all different.
And your team must be really important to you before you made the
Mm,
decision to go for an EOT. So talk
mhm.
me through that employee ownership.
Yeah. The team are very important to me and always have been, trying to do the best for them. I've worked in, the company before I set up. As I said, I was working everywhere God sends, and I was adamant that wouldn't happen for my team. I wouldn't turn into what I despised. And I think I've achieved that to an extent. We're all our worst enemies. But what I have is a culture where we sit and have lunch together. I try and encourage people to not work late, but obviously if things need to be done, they need to be done. But as a rule, it shouldn't happen, because if it's happening over a long period of time, then we've got a resource issue,
Mm.
or we're not charging correctly. The EOT, so the Employment Ownership Trust, has come about because I wanted, so I've been trying to work what's the succession planning, and that I've been working through for a few years, about making sure that I'm not doing day to day. I'm not the day to day kind of account client person, that's been managed by the team. I've got two amazing directors who have worked with Whitewell for a number of years, making sure that they're at the forefront for all the clients. And I wanted to make sure that I felt quite strongly that I probably am not the right person to take the company forward, bearing in mind the changing landscape in the digital arena, and I'm not maybe the right person. And also, I've worked really hard, and I think it's time for somebody who can hold the energy that maybe I don't quite have just now, to move forward. I also knew that there was nobody within the existing team, for no good or bad reason, that would want to take the company over. So I decided, as I started to speak to some other companies, and got some advice from Scottish Enterprise about employee ownership trusts, and decided to do both at the same time, employee ownership trust and appoint an MD, which a lot of people have said you were off your head, but for me it was the right thing to do. It allowed me to attract the right MD, because there was an incentive there because of the OT, and I put 100% of so I own nothing. I'm now an employee, and obviously there's an earn-out period, which will hopefully be 4 or 5 years. And at that
Mhm.
point, that allows me to still be within the business, still to provide my experience and guidance, but with a new MD to take things forward. So it's early days. We moved over on the 9th of September. My birthday's the day after. I was 56 on my birthday, and I wanted to get it done when I was
Mhm.
55. It was a nice thing nice birthday present to get done. And it means that next 4 or 5 years we're moving to the next generation for Whitewall.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, just yeah, well done. This just
I
great.
honestly, I didn't know that much about employee ownership trusts. And then when I found out, I was like, this is a no, it's literally a no-brainer. People had said to me all the time, what are you going to do with the company? You're going to sell it? And I was like, no. And I had again that imposter syndrome, what's the value of the company? What is it? And I didn't like the thought of somebody buying the company over. And the employment ownership trust, I just think is a fantastic model. I'm a big advocate of it. I think it allows companies to move forward, and it's for all sizes. It's not just larger companies; it's small companies can do it as well. And as I say, I think it helped enormously for me recruiting a new managing director who is a female as well. So we're still very female bias here,
So are
and
you,
that's.
tell me about that then. Is it all 100%
We
female
have
led?
we have one man boy, who is brilliant, and he is in the office. He loves it, so he's freelancer but part of the team. We have been female. We've not always been female. Don't we have had some? We have had men before, but they've just not quite worked out. And there's no reason particularly. I'm not. They'll laugh at this because I always say I'm not a feminist. I'm not a massive, feminist person. But then I'll tell them stories, and then they'll go, "You sound quite feminist." I'm like, but we are all pretty much all female, and yeah, I think it's the right person for the job. So I don't want to go too far down, but I am again very proud. That's who we are, and we're a female employee-owned company. Yeah,
Fantastic. Girl power. Yeah. Yeah.
girl power. Yes.
What have been the challenges that you've faced? In 20 years, there must have been a lot of ups and downs. Tell me about some of the tough times.
Tough times are there's a lot of responsibility running a company. The buck does stop at you. You're the one that have to. There's things that I wish I could have attended that I haven't personally, because of business. So there's things I feel that I've missed out on over the years, and that's why I want to kind of make up for that now and a wee bit more time now. Challenges, obviously trying to make money. Biggest challenge. Yourself, and you're in the service when you're like in an hourly rate type arena. It's hard. It's hard because people's perceptions on value of jobs. So trying to get pricing, costing right is always a challenge. I'm terrible at costing. The guys will always laugh at because I always go, that sounds really expensive, and then oh God, it doesn't shut up. So costing jobs, making mistakes on that, and you just have to kind of sup it up. Clients, we've been really lucky with clients, but sometimes you have the odd one that's not the nicest, and what do you do? You have to just keep going, and it's hard to have difficult conversations. I think HR is a hard one, so keeping the team happy, particularly in the world now where people flip jobs. Biggest thing that I think that I would say it's people's flipping jobs. It's that loyalty you want. We need young and fresh talent, but we want to keep them. But sometimes the young and fresh talent will just go for the next job because they get a bit extra money and all the rest of it. Making sure the packages are comparable. We can, as an agency, we struggle for our packages to match up with large corporates. So we've lost some team members to that, and there's nothing we can do. And they go with our best wishes. And also everybody has a time where they need to move on, which again is all good too. But yes, the kind of HR arena is a hard one. It's just that balance. Again, we've been lucky. Our clients pay on time, so a lot of people might say that they have issues about getting paid. Touch wood, we've been very lucky over that 20 years. We've not had one bad debt.
Oh, that's
That's
fabulous.
something
Yeah.
that I'm very proud of as well. I do always laugh, and I've always said that if somebody wasn't going to pay, I'd literally sit on their doorstep till they did. But we haven't had to do that, which is good. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm,
so
I'm,
the biggest challenge, HR, I'd say.
For somebody that's listening and thinking of scaling their business, and a lot of people choose not to because they think that the HR building a team, they think that is too much of a headache. So what would be your top tips for managing the team and the
So I
HR?
think the HR, there's some amazing resources out there. We have just signed up because we've moved to employee ownership trust. It's really important that we make sure from an HR and from a staff point of view that we are doing this right. So we have now, after 20 years, where because previous to that, it was 100% on my back, so I can make the decisions. The feeling now is that we need HR support. So we've just tied in with an agreement with NatWest, who we bank with, and our first experiences have been amazing. So I would say it probably is worth that investment to get some HR support where they can work through contracts, they can work through just that, where you need somebody to say you're right or you're wrong, because that
Mhm.
is the fear factor of getting things wrong. And that's about protecting the team as much as the employer. So it works both ways. So that would be my biggest bit of advice, and that's only something that we've just done in the last month. But I can see the rewards straight away on an area where we were slightly concerned. I think team culture, making sure that it's really understood as well from an early on. And I think there are other ways of doing it. The freelance route that we've done from people to scale up, because the worry about scaling up is you have to scale back.
Yeah.
That's a big worry. And we've had to make redundancies. So we've made two rounds of redundancies. We lost a large contract 2018. We had to make redundancies. And then in COVID, we had to make redundancies. And my colleague, who's one of our directors, had to manage that. And it's a horrible process. It was really horrible. And I know it was horrible for the guys that got made redundant, but it was very difficult time. I think it was difficult for us because there are some people who doesn't really matter for them. They scale up, scale back, scale up, scale back, and they don't mind. They literally don't mind. But
Mhm.
for us, it's difficult because we're like a family, our work family. I always say we spend more time together than we do with our partners outside of work. And yeah, getting that HR, knowing that there are other routes. Not everybody wants to work full time. There are people who actually want to work 3 or 4 days a week. There are ways round things, and there is a massive freelance army out there as well that can help that scaling up. So that would be my advice. But I would say go for it as well. I went for it years ago when I had that big opportunity, and I had to take it was an opportunity quite based on trust, and I felt that if I hadn't taken that opportunity, what would I say in 5 years' time? And that's what I've always said. If I hadn't taken that opportunity, and sometimes, yes, there is risk, but as long as you're sensible and work through everything, then there's always a solution. And there is always a solution for the workplace. Solution might not be the most palatable, but there's always a solution. But I would say people should just go for it because you've got one crack at life.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be regretting not going for it in
No
years to come.
regrets, yeah. And that's the thing, and no regrets. And what I've done is it has given me a life that so there are some things that I've missed out over the years, but financially it set me up for my retirement. I'm very lucky or I say I'm lucky, and then people say you're not lucky, it's because you worked hard. But I feel very privileged and lucky to know that the next 20, 30 years I'm financially secure because of the last 20 years. And I feel very privileged to be in that position. So it might take away at some points, but it definitely gives. And it's lovely to be able to, as an owner, a business owner, it's lovely to what else I'm trying to explain this. What I'd always say to the guys is we can do what we want here. We can do
Yeah.
what we want. We're not owned by a big company. We can do what we want. And that's really liberating. It's in our hands. So our
I think
future basically in our hands.
that takes us back to why you started in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was just I just wanted to have that kind of control on and it was that whole just working for somebody else without the care and attention. And actually, I think if I worked for the same company now, it wouldn't be the same because they wouldn't, things have changed back to that kind of like conditions and all the rest of it have changed so much over the last 20 years. It wouldn't be the same. But also, it might, some of that might have been because of just who I am. And I always said that I was like, people say, how did you get here? And I was like, by graft, hard graft. I'm not the smartest. I'm not. The other thing I would say is I don't have a degree. I'm like the one person in our office without a degree. And I push heavily for people who don't have a degree not to think that should hold them back. So there's a whole number of reasons against why I should have got here, but I did get here and I'm ultimately very proud of it.
And so you should be. Yeah, absolutely well done. Yeah. One last question for you then, Susie. If you could go back and meet your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
So my 18, I'll answer this. It's quite a long answer. So my 18-year-old self, I left school at 16, at fifth year with three hires, not great ones. All I wanted to do was work in a bank, and I got a job in a bank. So I started it, and then I got bored very quickly and thought, oh my God. And I lasted just under 2 years, started doing the banking exams and all the rest of it. And again, very male. I literally made people, the bank manager, cups of tea and coffee. It was hilarious. And I went back and I did an HND because I had three hires, but they weren't massive, great hires. And that was, so I was 18 then. And I would tell myself to do exactly the same thing. The only thing I think I would tell myself to do is to go traveling and actually to go and experience. The one thing I've done is I'm a Glasgow girl and I've not moved. I move a postcode. If I move, I've moved postcodes. Probably the one thing is I would say go to London, go abroad, go and experience life outside where you live. That's probably, just thinking through, that's probably the one thing that I think I would have loved to have done. Although I think if I'd done it, I might not have ended up where I am because I might be living somewhere else.
So,
That's the only one regret I probably have.
but I guess you've got the freedom, the business is running without you, you can travel now.
Can travel now. That's exactly. I have my family live down south, so it means I can see my family a bit more. It means I've bought a book Scottish Islands, and I'm going to. My plan is to go and visit every island that you can get onto in Scotland. At some point. And yeah, it's very much about going to see the world now. And I do have that ability to do that. Plus, obviously, working a bit at the same time and making sure that everything goes well here. And that I get from go back to the employee ownership trust, that I get my kind of earn out over the next 4 or 5 years. But yes, but traveling now, definitely.
Fabulous. Brilliant. Personal goals, business. Yeah. Oh, Susie, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today. I could keep talking to you for hours, but we've run out of time. Thank you very much for being on the show.
You're welcome. And it's just really nice to actually kind of tell the story, actually. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. A lot of people say that just have the time to reflect and to look back on their story is quite powerful for them
Yeah,
as a guest, not just for us as the listeners. So, only
yeah,
one in
absolutely.
three UK entrepreneurs are female, and men are 5 times more likely to scale past £1 million in turnover than women. When we match them, we'll add £250 billion to the UK economy and create millions of jobs. That's why Scale Her Up exists, to change those numbers, one business at a time. Thanks for listening today. If this episode helped you, please follow the show, leave a review, and share it with another female business owner who needs to hear it. Join our Scale Her Up Facebook community and connect with me, Brenda Hector, on social media. I love hearing which episodes resonate with you. You're capable of more than you think. Keep going, we're scaling her up together.